Could I ask everybody to please stand? And good afternoon. My name is Gilbert Smith, and welcome to Bradenton Kiwanis. It's great to see you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for all the guests that are here also. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join me in the singing of My Country, 'Tis of Thee. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And Andy Minor, will you lead us in our invocation?
Pray with me, please. Dear Lord Jesus, bless this meeting of our Kiwanis Club. Let's all be mindful of our many blessings in this community, and always to you for guidance for the children of Manatee County. Precious name I pray. Amen.
Please be seated. And before we take a short break for you to have fellowship, I do want to welcome Jack Powers. Jack is back. And please enjoy yourself for 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll come back with the program. I need to tell you some announcements. There is a community service, Kids Against Hunger food packaging event, Saturday, August 20th at 8 a.m. at the Feeding Empty Tummies warehouse in Palmetto for those of you that want to be there. Do they need to sign up for that, Mac?
It would be good.
It'd be good if they signed up. Okay. Mac, you want to come up and introduce our guest?
And I promise I won't do any battery juggling today. Sorry, I know. It's a bummer. Anyway, we do want to welcome everybody here today to Kiwanis. We're always so pleased to have so many people show up at this time of day. We know it's tough sometimes to get out of jobs or out of attending with grandchildren and children and so forth, but we do appreciate y'all coming together and being with us to join in fellowship and hopefully to learn a few things every once in a while. As I call your name, if you wouldn't mind just standing up and letting people know that you are here, we'd appreciate it. First of all, Miss Barbara Barlow from Westminster Communities. We also have Olga Cano King and her husband Carl. And just so you know, they are with Allegra Marketing and Print and Image 360. We have Dave Coker back again. Yay. Sean Ahern. Where is Sean? Okay, from Freedom Village. And we also have Asa Moore. Asa, where is Asa? Oh, I'm sorry. I work with what I got. Thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thanks, Mac, and we are always appreciative of all our guests that are here. Well, today we're going to talk about the 2001-2002 history of our club, and David Wilcox, come on up. Right there, you sit right there, right here, right there. And you might want to adjust your seat so you can see the screen, but really important time in our club. On October 1st, 2001, David Wilcox was sworn in as the 2001-2002 president, along with the other officers and directors. As a prominent attorney, David looked forward to being president. However, September 11th set a different tone. David was born on October 28, 1949 at Eglin Air Force Base to Sergeant Carl and Hazel Wilcox. David grew up all over the world as his dad received new assignments. And wherever David was, he became a Cub Scout and then a Boy Scout, earning the rank of life. Through scouting, he learned the importance of community service and being prepared. In Belton, Missouri, an experience changed his life. He witnessed a girl who had been cut severely when a door had shattered from the glass. David's quick thinking and knowledge of first aid saved her life. He applied pressure to the wounds and kept the girl calm until the ambulance arrived. David attributes that experience to scouting and being prepared for that emergency. In 1966, his father retired and the family moved to Tampa, where David graduated from Robinson High School. He enlisted in the Air Force and served in Southeast Asia. And after receiving an honorable discharge, he started school at Manatee Junior College. And later, he transferred to Florida State University, where he graduated with his bachelor's degree in business administration and management. And David always knew that he had a natural gift of speaking and writing, and he liked to do that. So he decided he would become an attorney, and he graduated with his law degree in 1979 from FSU, and he started with the firm of Icard Merrill in Sarasota. After 1 year, however, he had the opportunity of a lifetime, and he accepted a position as the attorney for the governor of Florida, Bob Graham. So he moved back to Tallahassee for 2 years, and he represented the governor. And that experience gave him a special talent as an attorney. After that term was over, he returned to Icard Merrill for a while before opening his own firm in 1985, where he has practiced and still practices. Now remember the Bradenton Auditorium and the decision to build a city hall there? Take Back Bradenton was an organization that was the result of that, and David, and who remembers that? Everybody remember that? Several of you do remember that. Probably some of you were in that organization, I think. We'll talk about it in a week or two, won't we, Gary and Charlie? David was involved in that, and the result, of course, you'd see in the next few years. Now, something very special about David, his service. He served with Manatee Glen's, now known as Centerstone Hospital and Addiction Center, for many years. He was the chairman of the board, and it's inspirational that David was there so long helping those individuals with mental health and substance abuse issues. All the judges in here, we deal with Centerstone every day, and how helpful it is for many of the people that come before us. And recently, David's community service went international. As co-founder of the Committee for Open Democracy, he's helped raise and distribute over $1.3 million in humanitarian aid to those in need in Ukraine. And so I want to thank David for all you do for that service. That's just so wonderful. Now, just 2 months after 9/11, it was important for this club to sponsor a Patriot Day with the military. And so on November 6th, the club and the Veterans Celebration Task Force presented the Kiwanis American Patriotism Program on November 6th at the Bradenton Auditorium. And General Burnett was there for the speaker. And then at Farm City Week, just another week later, Carl Loop, the president of the Farm Bureau, was there to be the speaker, and John Dean was honored as the 2001 Agriculturalist of the Year Award. Now, during this time, security was on the minds of Manatee and the nation, but also the wobbly internet. As you can see, the article on the right talks about the internet being a little wobbly in those days. They've hopefully corrected all that. Not so much sometimes. In 2002, the club continued to lead the community with Better Manatee Day on March 6th. And then on the prayer breakfast, they had the next year, they continued that, and they brought in Reverend Jerry Falwell as keynote speaker. And as expected, it was a sold-out event with Reverend Falwell there. Now, can you believe it, what this club did next? It sponsored National Turn Off the TV Week for the youth. Now, what would it be in today? Put down the phone. So this club was campaigning for kids to turn off the TV. And I think go outside and have some activity out there. So anybody hear a motion that we sponsor another day? There we go. Do I have a second? On March 20th, the speaker, Steve Rentfeld, talked about this is an interesting, facial recognition surveillance and in pros and cons finding criminals. Now, those of you that were members during that time, remember he looked out at the audience to see if he could find any criminals with that surveillance. Right, Gary or Charlie, or David? What happened? So it was an eye-opener, and I'm not sure how that would go over today, but we also had a contestant for Miss Florida, Kathy Carson here. And then on August 7th, the club heard the candidates for the Florida Senate, Mike Bennett and Mark Flanagan. Now, those of you who remember, that probably was not a quiet event. And that would have been like a main event. And then, interesting, on September 24th, and I'll talk about this next week a little bit, but on September 24th, at a special luncheon meeting, the club celebrated its 80th year anniversary that year, on 2002. And members sang happy birthday while listening to an interesting program about the history of the club. And there's David blowing out the candles. And
Who's that with you, David?
that's Dr. Wenzel, isn't it? Is that Dr. Wenzel? Okay. And it also unveiled a portrait of Robert Bell, who, as we remember, led the efforts for the trailer park in 1936-37. So that brings up, don't miss the birthday party next week. And I will find someone to blow out the candles. Whoever is going to be, we're going to talk about next week. Right, Gary? And be here because we're going to have a group photo in front of the exhibit downstairs. So I wish everybody could be here for that so that we can do that. In fact, you're going to have to do that before you get any cake. So next week, we're going to talk about 2002 and 2003. And now, Andy, you ready to introduce our program?
Good afternoon. I'm very excited for our program today. So today with us we have from Congressman Buchanan's Congressional office, Sally Shelley. Sally has been with the campaign and the Congressional office really from the beginning. Her and I worked together all the way back in 2006 when Fern first got elected. She's going to be bringing us some updates from Washington. So please bring your questions. And Sally, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I regret that the congressman's unable to be here. We will get him here soon, but in the meantime, it's certainly an honor for me to be here on his behalf. Thank you, Andy, for the invitation. Pretty sure Vern wouldn't be in office if not for Andy, and many of you here today, as you may know, he won his first election by just 369 votes, so it was a close one. It's been an honor for me to work for him now for 16 years, and on his behalf, I want to thank the Kiwanis Club for all that you do on behalf of the community. This building is a prime example of the many contributions that you make. Just last week, I was at a meeting with the American Red Cross in Sarasota, and they indicated that they were recently speaking at this club and recruited many of you to volunteer for their smoke alarm installation program that they do. They talked about what a great group you are, so my applause to you for all that you do for the community, and congratulations on 100 years of the Kiwanis Club of Bradenton. That's very impressive. A little bit about the congressman. You may know Congressman Buchanan grew up with 5 siblings in a blue-collar household in a small town near Detroit, Michigan. He served 6 years in the Air National Guard and worked his way through college. He's a self-made businessman and was a respected leader in Florida's business community before entering Congress. He's currently serving his 8th term in the U.S. House of Representatives. His district includes Manatee and parts of Sarasota and Hillsborough counties. Manatee has always been the heart of Congressional District 16, and it will remain so under redistricting. We do lose northern Sarasota County, but pick up Hillsborough County, more of Hillsborough County, southeastern Hillsborough County. Congressman Buchanan had a choice. He could have run for election in Sarasota County or in Manatee County, and he chose Manatee County. Congressman Buchanan is co-chair of the bipartisan 29-member Florida Congressional delegation. Over the years, he has brought the delegation together to address important issues to the people of Florida on a bipartisan basis, issues like red tide, hurricane preparedness, relief and recovery, citrus screening, and flood insurance. He currently serves on the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over tax policy, international trade, Social Security, Medicare, health care, and welfare. He is the Republican leader on the Health Subcommittee, and he is running for chairmanship of the full committee, which would give him an even greater opportunity to lower taxes, bring down the cost of health care, and ensure the solvency of Medicare and Social Security for seniors now and in the future. The Congressman's top priority is constituent services. Please contact our office if you are in need of assistance or would simply like to share your opinions. We have a congressional office in Bradenton in the Judicial Center. We also have an office in Sarasota and in Washington, D.C. The Washington office handles the legislative issues. The 2 district offices provide constituent services and community outreach. All of our offices are nonpartisan. We serve all congressional district citizens regardless of their party affiliation. A few examples of the constituent services we provide include, but are not limited to, flag requests. We can have flags flown over the Capitol, Capitol and White House tours, congressional and legislative research, presidential greetings, constituent opinions, casework with federal agencies. If you have a problem with Medicare, Social Security, the VA, immigration, et cetera, we contact the agency on your behalf and make sure that your concerns get a fair hearing, and hopefully we're able to resolve the issues for you. The government is here to serve you. Sometimes they get that backwards, so we try to right any wrongs. We're here to serve you. The Congressman also has the honor of making Service Academy appointments. Over the years, he's secured funding to dredge Wares Creek, to study red tide, to do beach renourishment, to fight the opioid epidemic, and to provide hurricane relief and recovery. And I'll get into some of those issues in a bit. Right now, our constituents are struggling with inflation. At 8.5%, inflation is at a 40-year high. We were just talking about that over lunch, talking about what it costs to go get groceries for your families right now, or to go out to eat. It's a tax on all Americans. Higher costs are outpacing paychecks. Our district is home to 240,000 senior citizens, many of them living on a fixed income. Some Social Security is all they have, and it's making it really difficult, stretching their budgets and making it hard for them to make ends meet. Gas, of course, we all feel it at the pump. The average price is hovering at about $4 a gallon right now, which is a little bit better than a month ago, and it was $5 a gallon. This time last year, it was $3 a gallon. 2 years ago, we were energy independent in this nation. It is a national security issue, and we need to be less dependent on foreign oil. Congressman Buchanan recently unveiled an 8-point plan to secure America's energy independence and to lower gas prices. It draws on the best ideas in Congress, ideas like expanding domestic drilling on federal lands, encouraging investment in nuclear and other alternative energy, and reversing the crippling policies that have stifled domestic energy production in our country. We would be much better off today had these policies been in place over the last year and a half. And I'm sure that you have all seen firsthand the lack of affordable housing in our community. Rent has increased $400 on average in the last year in some parts of Manatee County. In fact, in 2021, Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton area saw one of the highest rate increases in the nation at 44.3%. At a recent roundtable with law enforcement, the chiefs of police and the sheriff's deputies shared with the congressman that they are having a hard time recruiting law enforcement officials to serve our community due to the high cost of housing. Just last week, the congressman visited Manatee Memorial Hospital, and the CEO said the same thing about recruiting nurses. We are encouraged by the addition of several new attainable housing complexes in this area, and we saw they broke ground recently, read it in the paper today, on another complex. But Congressman Buchanan feels that we need to do more. That is why he has long supported the low-income housing tax credit, which is an important tool to provide safe, quality, and affordable housing for area residents. The program provides incentives for developers with tax credits to build lower-income and attainable housing, and the congressman has co-sponsored legislation this Congress to expand that program. The congressman recently voted against the Democrats' $700 billion so-called Inflation Reduction Act. I believe President Biden is signing it in law today. Despite its name, the congressman feels it will actually increase inflation. It's a tax and spend bill. It raises taxes on businesses and people making less than $200,000 a year. Government spending is one of the factors that has caused the problem of inflation that we have now, and raising taxes is the worst thing we can do. The bill also supercharges the IRS by hiring 87,000 new auditors. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says their audits will largely hit hardworking lower and middle income families. We need to help American families and small businesses keep more of their hard-earned money, to invest in our economy, to invest in our community, to hire new workers and reward loyal employees with higher wages. Congressman Buchanan recently helped introduce a bill to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent for individuals and small businesses to help spur economic growth. Those tax cuts reduced taxes on middle-class families and small businesses, created 5 million new jobs in 2 years, and delivered the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, and spurred the fastest wage growth in a decade. I previously mentioned red tide. In the past year, we've been okay, but years previously, red tide wreaked havoc on our marine life, our waters, and many businesses that rely on Florida's tourism-based economy. Congressman Buchanan secured $8 million for red tide research and backed a proposal that was signed into law to provide more than $100 million to combat harmful algal blooms. Florida's beaches and pristine waterways are essential to our state's economy and to our quality of life. The congressman has long tried to support the preservation of Florida waterways, coastlines, and wildlife. Last year, he co-chaired a bipartisan meeting of the Florida Congressional delegation to discuss some of the most pressing water quality issues affecting the Sunshine State, including red tide, the Everglades, and wildlife conservation. And when contaminated water at Piney Point leaked into Tampa Bay, the Congressman was successful in getting the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers on the ground here to help minimize the environmental impact. On the subject of wildlife, I'm sure you've all seen the news about the skyrocketing deaths of Florida's beloved manatees. We need to put them back on the endangered species list, which is why the Congressman introduced the Manatee Protection Act, which would do just that. Putting them back on the endangered species list will help the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service refocus their attention on manatee rehabilitation and allow for increased federal resources, including more funding and personnel, to prevent additional manatee deaths. We must do everything we can to protect these gentle giants and Florida's marine mammal. Another important local issue is opiates. Congressman Buchanan got involved in this issue about a dozen years ago when he met with two mothers who had lost their sons to oxycodone overdoses. In 2010, an estimated 7 people a day in Florida died from prescription drug overdoses. Next, it was heroin after we closed the pill mills, and now it's fentanyl. The number of overdose deaths here and across the nation due to illegal fentanyl-related substances and other harmful opiates is tragic and alarming. In fact, fentanyl overdoses are now the leading cause of deaths for adults 18 to 45 years of age. Earlier this year, the Congressman was able to secure $2 million in additional funding to prevent prescription drug and opiate overdoses. He also introduced the Fight Fentanyl Act to help curb abuse of this deadly opiate and give law enforcement the tools to crack down on fentanyl producers, dealers, and smugglers. The Fight Fentanyl Act has been endorsed by Manatee County Sheriff Wells, as well as the sheriffs in Sarasota and Hillsborough counties. These drugs are destroying families. We see it in our community, but not only in our backyard, across the nation. We need to do everything we can to help address this growing epidemic. I thank you all for having me today on behalf of the Congressman to discuss current issues in our nation and in our community. I will try to answer any questions that you have, but more importantly, I welcome your comments and your concerns so that I can share them with the Congressman. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Sally? Here's one.
It's, in may get mad at me for doing this, but a praise report for Sally. It was, my wife and I were going on a trip with our children to the British Virgin Islands this summer. We had waited 6 to 8 weeks over that time period for a passport for our 10-month-old Mickey son. And it was 4 days before the trip, we started to panic, and Sally, within 1 day, which supposedly took over 8 weeks, made it happen, had a passport to us. So thank you very much.
You are welcome. I hope you had a great trip. And as I said, that's what we're here for. It's the most rewarding thing that I do every day is help constituents.
Anybody else have a question?
Yes, sir.
Bob,
I don't know, whenever Dan Miller was our representative, we took our daughter to Washington, had the White House tour and all that. Now we're thinking of taking our granddaughter there this end of October, early November, depending on when they have a school break. So how do we go about getting tickets for to take her through that?
I will give you my card, shoot me an email, and I'll help walk you through the process. It's on our website. If you go to buchanan.house.gov, there's a tab for constituent services. On there, it's Visit Washington. There's a form you can fill out, and you can pick and choose whichever tours you would like for our office to help line up for you. It's been difficult due to COVID. There were no tours for a couple of years. They have reopened the Capitol and the White House to tours on a very limited basis, and we don't require it. The White House requires at least 3 months advance. So as soon as I shoot you the email, please go to I'll send you the link to the form to fill out so we can get you on the list. Yes. Yes, sir.
Ray?
What kind of programs are you trying to put in place to address fentanyl programs and all the stuff that's going on with it and the lives that we victims
Right.
and touch people's homes? And it's just really rapid.
It's scary, yeah.
And I was wondering if you have, what are you all doing? What kind of programs are you trying to put together to try to circumvent this?
Sure. So it started with the pill mills in Florida, right? And the county did a good job of rezoning and putting those out of business. The congressman worked at that point on legislation to reclassify opioids to make them harder to prescribe, to get. And the DEA eventually changed the regulations in line with the congressman's bill. So then people went to heroin, and now, as you noted, it's fentanyl. It's coming across our borders. So the congressman has supported the STOP Act, which came into law, which hopefully increases inspections of postal goods and services coming primarily from China into our country that has that in there. It's coming across our borders. So, I mean, border enforcement is another piece of the puzzle that the congressman supports to help keep it from coming over the border. And as increased federal funding to help deal with the problem that he's been working on and has been successful in. The funds go to the states, so he's also been encouraging the governor to get more of that money into our community because we really were ground zero for the problem. Yes, ma'am.
I've been a CPA for 40 years, and now that the IRS has convinced Congress to fund them, which has been working over the last few years, is there any portion of those revenues that are going to be used to increase service to the taxpayer?
That would be nice, yes.
To get your answer, it's hardly fair to send an IRS agent after you to audit you.
Agree 100%, so does the congressman. Yeah, we have a huge backlog. The demand for services in our office has been unprecedented since COVID hit. I served under Catherine Harris the year we got hit by 5 hurricanes, and I thought that turned the Congressional office upside down. But with COVID, families were just devastated. The human health aspect of it, the people dying, but not being able to go to work, not being able to go to school, support your families. So all of the federal agencies shut down. Some of them are still shut down. We worked remotely for a while, but as soon as everybody was able to have vaccines that wanted them, we reopened. Florida's been open for a long time. There are still, IRS agents that aren't working, well, they are remotely, but it created a huge, huge background. We saw it with passports. People couldn't get passports. They weren't processing them, and we've seen it with the IRS and with tax returns. For a while, they weren't even allowing us to open cases on behalf of constituents who had not yet received their tax returns. In their defense, they were inundated because they were required to administer the stimulus program. So they had to turn that around on a dime and try to get those checks out to as many people as possible, as fast as possible. So the processing of tax returns kind of went to the back burner for a while. But yes, if we're going to put more resources into the IRS, the congressman feels it should go to clearing out the backlog, not to auditing middle-income families.
Well, thank you, Sally. And,
Thank you.
Our tradition is to award you the coveted Golden Ruler, so
Awesome.
thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sally, for being here. That was a great presentation. So next week's we're going to celebrate a birthday, our birthday. Please be here. We're going to have fun. And then I wanted to give you a tip on the following program on August 30th. We're going to have a young author here to talk about a book she wrote about the most famous murder trial in Manatee County history in the 1800s. And she wrote a historical fiction about the sheriff's involvement in that case. So her name is Andrea Keeves, and she'll be here on August 30th. So next week, your birthday, so please join me. So we are adjourned. Have a nice day.